Yes, well, here we go, folks. This is quite uncharted territory. We don't have this too often, but yeah, it is P.M.P. And sadly, our worst fears, we are going to be talking about a defeat, a quite rotten performance, to put it lightly, against Kilmarnock. But yeah, as you can see, Russell, as I mentioned earlier on, he's unable to do the show today, so I'll be stepping into the hosting seat. But as you can see alongside me, to go through that mess, shall we say, to put it politely, of a performance, I'm joined by Regan Stevenson at my side here. Regan, how you doing, mate?
I'm not bad. I've just got Brendan Rodgers in the background. I'm just listening to what he's saying. But no, it's a very disappointing day, Phil. It's no good at all. I mean, I expected it to be difficult because of the pitch. But I'm starting to agree with Brendan. I don't think we actually deserve to win that game. I think we could have played for 12 days and still not scored a goal today.
Could have.
I think one of the big problems, Phil, was I think probably the best chance was after 65 minutes with the brand new signing Diang, winning first one across the post. But no, I just didn't think overall that we done it that much today to cause Kilmarnock that many problems. It's very worrying. I think overall the squad needs a refresh, a reboot.
Well, without a doubt, we're going to get into that during this show here. And obviously, what would P.M.P. be without the face and the voice of post-match pitch? Terry, how you doing, mate?
Not too bad, Phil. Not too bad. Obviously, very, very disappointing result. That's the first trophy of the season gone. We're out of the League Cup. I caught the manager's comments just when the intro was playing there, and he used the term lack of quality twice. But we know there's a lack of quality because we haven't brought quality in. We're a weaker team than we were last season. And if you look at that lineup today, against our strongest team from last year, you're missing Alistair Johnson, Carter Vickers, and Starfelt. There's nothing. I've seen nothing from Nawrocki in 3 or 4 games to say that he's an obvious upgrade on Starfelt. Lagerbielke get his first game, so I'll probably give him a pass on today. That back four is then propped up by a really, really out of form Greg Taylor in the midfield with Nyobatati and Jota, who was the talisman for so many performances last season. So the team that took to the park today was just a shadow of last year's team, and that part of that's on the club and the manager in terms of the work that they've done. And I know that there's a narrative that we're building up to a really strong end to the transfer window. There's no guarantees that we get any of these guys that we're being linked with, and even if we do at this stage, we're already out of one trophy. And if you're a Daniel Podence or somebody watching that game today, and you've got a few offers to consider, and you're thinking about Celtic, do you really want to be part of that?
Right.
It's a worrying sign, but we're going to be I say a few of the players you mentioned there. I've got them on my hit list here of notes of things that I've observed from the game. So we'll be taking a look at some of the individual performances there. But of course, before we get into that, folks, again, I'll just remind people, despite the bad result today, to please do all that good stuff and help out Algorithm CSC. Obviously, hit that like button. Obviously, get involved in the comments. It's very, very lively right now, I can tell you. Obviously, share the link in the Bhoycie Bus far and wide on whatever social media platform is your poison out there. And of course, you can subscribe if you've only just discovered the Bhoycie Bus and wish to keep us in your life a wee bit longer. Then by all means, hit that subscribe button. We appreciate it massively. And remember, hit the bell notification because we go live a lot. And of course, you can head over to our sponsors, piesports.com, and use the code BUS1888. It's a nice 12.5% off your order. I find a few people need a bit of comfort eating after that one today, so by all means head over and get those kebab pies in particular. They are highly sought after. Okay, now let's get into it. Let's try and dissect what we just watched there today. So Regan, I don't know about yourself when it comes to Celtic, because especially in the last few years, we've obviously been steamrolling most teams and losses are few and far between. But my mentality with Celtic when it comes to a bad result and a defeat is I can usually, I don't want to say accept it, because you should never accept defeat at all, but I can find a bit of comfort in as long as I watch the performance and go, it's just been one of those bad days in front of goal. We've had just an unlucky day, but today just wasn't even that at all. There was
No,
nothing. It felt like, and you said opening Gambia, I felt we could have played for another hour and we wouldn't have scored. You know, we're chasing a goal near the end of the game there, potentially maybe get extra time in another 30 minutes. It's like, we could play for another 30 minutes and I still don't see us winning this. It was just so inept, and it's just incredible because it was like, I remember in Brendan's second season, we had a performance at Kilmarnock that was very similar to that. We lost 1-0. I think Malumbu even scored the winner that day.
I was there. Aye.
You were at that one, and we just looked like we could play all day and no score, and that was one of the performances of the day where you just had a bad feeling about it from early on. We looked disjointed, we looked slow, we didn't really trouble them, and again, as I say, if I can see that at least, you know, we've tried everything and we've just been unlucky, I go, well, it's one of the days. But no, today alarm bell should definitely be ringing after that one, shouldn't it, Regan?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's important to say as well is that, see, for Celtic to bring in a calibre of manager like Brendan Rodgers, we need to also show Brendan that it's worth being here, because that performance today wasn't a very good performance. And as much as we can say Derek McInnes' side played very well, but I thought there was so much lacking quality. I thought the squad was really bad. I could go through them all. Taylor, Ralston, Joe Hart playing about the back again. Just so many negatives for me today. And I think one of the big things as well is I thought the play was so slow. Like I didn't think there was any point where I could go, oh, I can see him moving the ball quick. And I thought, see, in terms of Derek McInnes, he's probably saying, like, Celtic can have the ball, but I think the problem for us today was, see, when we had the ball, we did. I don't think we really done much with the ball, so it didn't really matter that much to Kilmarnock.
Aye, it was. It was just, you know, repeating ourselves. And in fact, there was a comment here, Terry, about back passes. Because, yeah, it seems to be the thing where it was like there was nothing on, just pass it back to, you know, back at the defence. We come forward, back there, maybe really back to the goalkeeper. It was just a lot of recycling play and not doing anything with it. And when Killie got their goal, they were just comfortable. They just didn't look like we were going to trouble them. I mean, that big boy Vassell that came on, he did exactly what you expect. Just held the ball up, didn't he? And just managed to, you know, keep it away from him, keep it out in the corner and so forth. And we just didn't have an answer for it, did we, Terry, at all?
No, you've touched on the passing there. It was just passing for the sake of passing, and it seemed to get we would get only so far up the pitch, and then it would be turned back and just go for the safe pass again. And a common trait in these Celtic games is where the two centre backs have got lots and lots of possession, and those two centre backs today did have lots of possession, but their distribution I thought was terrible. I mean, they had lots of opportunities to free possession, bringing the ball out from the back, and short passes, long passes, nothing whatsoever was coming off. I mean, in terms of that game today, I think we got as much as we deserved. There was absolutely nothing. It was uninspiring. There was a real lack of intensity. There was a real lack of imagination. And we've praised Rodgers so many times about his in-game management, but I think even today it felt like he just didn't know what to do to get something out of this team. When he's thrown on Haksabanovic, who, for all intents and purposes, looks as if he doesn't really fancy. I think he's at that stage where he's just trying anything. And we praised Kyogo, and we talked about the change in role for him a couple of weeks ago, where the first game of the season where he was dropping deep and getting involved in the build-up play. You see how deep he was dropping today? He was nearly on the edge of our own box to come and try. Nothing was getting. There was nothing of any quality getting through to him.
It was. I mean, Mark, obviously, thank you for joining us, mate, for this post-mortem. I think it goes without saying, obviously, it was a shambolic performance, to say the least. To say, where would you wish to start, Judge? Because I say there's plenty we could go through here in terms of some of the individual performances, but. You know, I don't know how much of the comments you caught there before you came on, but just again, I'm saying, like, I can, if Celtic at least throw everything at it and it's just one of the unlucky days, I can go, well, that's what it is, we just move on. But today it was just like we could play for an hour, 2 hours, just didn't look like we were going to score. And it was just, it's worrying, just like the up front, you know, just there was no cohesion, no real chances made. I think our best two chances came, I'm saying, like the first 15 minutes, where Holmes zipped one across the box, and Kyogo slid for the back post. And obviously, it was a bit of a coming at a bit of a pace, couldn't wrap his foot around it. And then a few minutes later, was it Matt O'Reilly just very timidly passing the ball into the keeper's hands when he had space to take a touch, steady himself, and bail down on goal, but he just wanted to get the shot away so quickly. And that was another thing I think, Mark, that we made a lot of mistake with just decision making at times. There were moments there where if they just made the right decision, we were in on goal. Probably the Maida one quite near the end where we were breaking for a corner, and he's got the whole park in front of him, and he just tries to ping a ball to Yang or like a diagonal, but he completely fluffs it and sends it right down to their goalkeeper. It's like, you got all the space in the world. So decision making was erratic as well today, wasn't it, Mark? But say what was right today? Nothing.
Fuck all, mate. It's utter shambles from start to finish. You know what I mean? We've got a goalkeeper who shouldn't have been in goals, right? He didn't do much wrong today, apart from show up. The full defence looked a bit disjointed. I thought Naroki and Laga Bielka, the two of them playing only their second and first game, and the first time playing together, a wee bit of a hard place to go to Kilmarnock, so you can't excuse them. Thought Ralston was good at going forward, didn't deal with too much, but again, he could have been dropped. I thought the midfield was a wrong selection again. We had Carl McGregor deep into injury time. He's sitting 30 yards for his own goal. Invisible again. He's either not suited to this style of play, or Brendan Rodgers is trying to totally take him out of the equation altogether, because he's offering the team absolutely nothing. Kyogo's dropping to 40, 50 yards for his own goal to try and get involved. Haksabanovic, who looks as if he's got one leg and one arm, and every other part of his body at the club, seems to come on the park and walks on the park, although he was a bit of a spark. Yang, who I should have started the match, he looked a wee bit of he looks as if he's the only player I know that's got his heat good and went towards goal. Jota, when he fit into this team, he's too forward thinking. When he fit into this team, there was a spell in the first half where every time Greg Taylor touched the ball, he played the ball backwards. There was one point that Laga Bielka or New York, I can't remember who it was, tried to pass the ball to Greg Taylor. Greg Taylor wasn't expecting the pass, the ball got away for a shy. That tells me that Greg Taylor knew that the defender was doing the wrong thing. The pass he was supposed to do was pass the ball backwards. And because Greg Taylor, who had space, was the chosen pass, Greg Taylor wasn't ready for it. Kyogo was nowhere to be seen, but I'm not blaming that boy. That boy can finish 9 out of 10. He'll hit the ball on target. You know what I mean? He didn't even get a chance today. Celtic had no shots on target today. David, when you're looking at the bench at the start of the match, before the game even fucking started, I looked through that lineup. I went, Burnaby, no. I always look at the bench and think, if we're in trouble, who's going to change it?
Who's going to change it?
No. I went, Forrest, no. Turnbull, no. Haksabanovic, Yang, aye. And the rest, no. That bench, with 2 weeks or 10 days to go before this window closes, don't want any more pish, okay? We've got all the money that we've ever had in the bank at this stage, ever had. Qualified for the Champions League. The issues, we're not holding off to see if the striker we want is going to come, but he's waiting to see if they qualify first. No more excuses about that. This is a club who won't change their strategy after today's result. The strategy that's in place this morning, before kick-off, is the same strategy getting him the bus tonight. They won't knee-jerk react, but they just won't fucking react. We've seen this movie before at Celtic, right? Brendan Rodgers, for me, he's still the best candidate, and I'm not going to hear the end otherwise, right? But that game today was set up to the way he wanted to set up. Slow passing, backward passing. If the backward pass wasn't on, you played a long ball. Then it seems to be that the strategy is play for the back, but do it that slowly that you invite the team onto you to force them into forcing you to try and make a mistake, and then you hit the ball at the top. Look for gaps. You've seen unless you're good enough to do that, or unless you're playing against a team that's totally inept at playing that system, it's not going to work for you. Celtic are starting their attacks 20, 30 yards behind where they should be. You've got midfield, Carl McGregor, he's actually been nullified that much that he's non-existent now. And you've got Turnbull and O'Reilly, who last season were second and third choice, sometimes third and fourth choice for a start, are now starting games together. You've got Matt O'Reilly, who shouldn't have been in that fucking park. I know he scored 2 goals this season, right? Stats don't tell you everything, Phil. And If our midfield and our best midfield contains Matt O'Reilly or David Turnbull, we're in big fucking trouble. The Champions League is starting soon, and I hope to God there's a God up there. If there is one, he's going to give us an easy draw, because Celtic will get their arses fucking kicked. And by the way, that was Kilmarnock today playing in third gear. They didn't even step up until they wanted to step up.
Yeah.
Celtic could have a shot and goal. Their goalkeeper could have wore fucking poppadoms on his hands, and they wouldn't even broke mine him. Utter disgrace. Anybody watching that match and isn't as angry as any of us for this podcast, it's probably called the Rangers fan.
No, actually, now the name that you brought up there, Mark, and I'll come at you in this, Regan. Do you think we should be concerned about Callum McGregor's form? Because a few people in the chat have picked up on it. Even in the first couple of games against Ross County and Aberdeen, last week at Aberdeen particularly, they were very aggressive and on top as he was getting caught out in possession a lot. But today, totally nullified, and he goes. I can't imagine, or just because we've went from one season to another, that he's had some sort of massive drop in form. We're only talking a few months between May and August, so it's like it can't be that much a drop off. But for whatever reason, Callum McGregor doesn't seem to be. He's very, very slow on the ball. But again, it's like, I know you could say it's a change in tactics, but he played for Brendan Rodgers just a few seasons ago. So it's like, so he knows what to expect. But are you worried about McGregor? Because he's so crucial to the team. He is the linchpin at the bottom of the midfield.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think he's playing too many games. But I do get your point. It's been very slow. That's probably because Brendan's plays very slow. But at the same token, he's played with Brendan before, and Brendan said he was the key reason why he went back to Celtic, because he spoke to Callum McGregor in Spain, and he told him that it was going to be so good. But I just don't know. I'm just a little bit worried in terms of the transfer strategy, because this is now the time to stop bringing in projects. Stop bringing in a guy from, like I read something today, that we're looking at a 20-year-old from Denmark as a striker. Yeah. Now, see, if you want to bring in a guy like Brendan Rodgers and say to him, right, Brendan, you're going to be serious here in Europe. No disrespect to this guy, 20 years old from Denmark, but Brendan Rodgers didn't want that. Like, do you know what I mean? I don't know if you guys agree, but I just feel like Celtic fans have been, I don't know, but I think we're being too used to winning trebles, and we go, everything's totally fine, stop complaining, because over the past 10 years we've won so many trebles, and I think that's part of the problem. But I don't mean it's been great to win those trebles, but I think sometimes like a result like today can put it back in perspective, that sometimes, even though we're winning trebles, we still need to improve the squad. And I think, even Greg Taylor, it's so obvious. Greg Taylor does not suit Brendan Rodgers' style of play. I've watched them the past 3 games, and you can tell it straight away. People like Joe Hart has been very good for the dressing room. People are telling me, but he needs to go. He needs to go. There's so many players I could write him off. Say that he come on the game there, and I thought he did well. But there's been talk about possibly joining the different clubs. What's the point of bringing these players on? And you spoke about last year, Bernabei. Everybody knows that these players are not good enough, but Celtic board clearly think that they can put these players on because Celtic are going to win the league by 10 points or something, so there's no need to strengthen.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the problem, because people will still, Celtic know for a fact, right, Mark? Celtic know for a fact that you, Terry, Phil, everybody's going to buy the Champions League packages. So there's no problem. They know, no matter Bernabei and Ralph at the wing backs, and if Taylor's playing, everybody's going to buy it to watch Celtic versus Barcelona.
It's a terrifying prospect, but Terry will concentrate there on Greg Taylor, because his name's coming up a lot in the chat, the left back position, and today we know that our cohort here on the channel, Punk Duck Warlord, Liam, he's been obviously beating the drum for a wee while about Greg Taylor and so forth, and today he was just it felt like he couldn't do anything right at all. I mean, even before Ange happened, when Taylor did play, I always felt he was really ineffective at being an overlapping fullback. He would always come forward with the ball and maybe he didn't have the pace to beat somebody or the skill. He would always just either pass it inside or pass it back the way.
Mhm.
Now, Ange always wanted to play him as an inverted fullback, but he comes inside and he seems to be more effective. But now we're going back to Brendan's style and he wants overlapping fullbacks, and Greg Taylor just ain't it. He's saying most of the passes today from him were either just back the way again because he comes forward and realises I'm not getting anywhere with this, or it was a misplaced pass right back to a Kilmarnock player. As Mark picked up earlier on, there was even an instant where he's completely no expected a pass at all. He's gone straight out for a throw in. Again, we keep hammering home about the left back situation. That has to be a huge priority, doesn't it, Terry?
I think after today, there's probably more priorities other than, I mean, goalkeeper and left back would be two areas I think we definitely need someone in. But you watch that game today, you could say we need players in all areas, to be honest. And I was disappointed. I was disappointed today in Holmes' performance because I thought, and this is something that we've talked about and we've seen lots of times where the guy that's coming on for the last 15 or 20 minutes looks good, then he gets his chance, then he doesn't take his chance. And that's like a movie in repeat that we've seen, whether it's Turnbull or Moy last season or whoever it is, the guy that's coming on in the midfield looking like a player for about 15 minutes. Everybody's then saying, oh, he deserves a start. And we were calling for this guy to start today and he got a start and he then seemed to go backward. He didn't look anywhere as inventive or as good a player as he had done in the two times that he came on. Going back to Taylor, I mean, I think Taylor's become a bit of a whipping boy. Again, since Kieran Tierney left, we haven't properly replaced him. We've blown money on Ball and Goalie. We paid money for Taylor. We brought in Bernabei. I mean, that's three players, probably a total of about 10 million, and we still don't have a left back that we can hang our hat on. So I definitely think that's an area we need to bring someone in. But is it? I don't know. We've got three left backs at the club if you include Scales, and
it's pretty
I actually think Scales isn't the worst of those three, to be honest with you. And
I agree.
I didn't think he'd done very little wrong. He played most of the pre-season games, and he didn't do anything wrong. All right, he maybe wasn't a standout in them, but I think you kind of know what you're going to get with Scales, and I think it looks as if he's probably going to go to Aberdeen. Although, given that Stephen Welsh is now out, that might be probably
it might change things.
Regardless of that, I don't think Scales is the answer at left back. But we've just burned through so many left backs, and since Tierney left, maybe it needs to be Tierney that comes back and replaces himself. That remains to be seen. But no, I mean, I felt we needed upgrades in this team. I haven't seen any yet. None of the players we've brought in are obvious upgrades on the players that we've lost or the players that we already had there. Are we going to do it? Are we going to do that in the next 10 days? Maybe. I'm not overly confident, to be honest.
But just I
think the window it could go one of two ways. Yes, we'll go out and we'll bring in a few players who, on the face of it, on paper, look as if they're upgrades, or we'll get the hard luck story. Oh, we tried, we pushed really hard.
Difficult window.
Read that one before. Yep.
The thing is, though, I think the first derby match and the Champions League opening fixtures, they're very important to the season in both competitions. I think the first derby is very important, and then the first game or two in the Champions League. What preparation are you giving the manager if your plan was to bring the players in the last couple of days of the window? Bearing in mind that these players are going to be getting, they might be, for talk's sake, playing in a bigger league, but no getting any game time. So what state are they going to be in physically? And we've got a squad who we're being told is playing the same system with a tweak. What a fucking tweak that is, right? And they're struggling to cope with it. So what would 2-3 potential players who's going to come in and galvanise us? How much preparation would they need to give the manager the right ammunition to go to an Ibrox. That matters to me. Going to Ibrox matters to me more than anything else, right? That right now matters to me more than the Champions League. I'm sorry to say that, folks, but it's just, I just think we set ourselves up the day to fail, you know what I mean? And if you look at that bench and you go, we've got injuries, yes, Carter Vickers is out. That isn't news to anybody because we were lucky to get him back for the start of the season. We could have, and Arthur Georgians has been out injured for 2 months now. That's no news to anybody else either. We chose not to bring anybody else in to strengthen that. I know Carter Vickers has been replaced by 2 young boys, but should a cup tie as important as that? It's important to me. You just fling in 2 boys to play their debut together. You can't forward plan for injuries, but or you can forward plan for them. You can't expect to get them at one time. But do you know something? Even if he had Stephen Welsh fit, he probably wouldn't have played anyway. And 2 boys we got into Korea. That was like 5 weeks into the window. And there wasn't one other team trying to sign any players. There hasn't been one other team trying to sign any one of their targets. Celtic would put out there that Celtic beat teams to get them, right? So it just shows you Celtic chose to dither all summer to save weekly wages to get the players in at the last minute because the strategy is get them in later and you save a couple hundred grand at own wages. Knowing fine well that every manager wants to get his players in at the very first chance he can get to give them the best possible chance to start the season up and running instead of running backwards as Celtic are doing just now. And I don't think as a Celtic fan, I have to be honest with himself that has been impressed with anything we saw pre-season or this season, or any Celtic fan that's totally content with the transfer strategy. Because for me, there's something just not working in the Celtic Park. It's just something not right.
Mark, do you get the feeling? I get the feeling something just isn't right. And I mean, we look at Rodgers, and in public, he seems to be towing the party line. Surely behind the scenes, he's absolutely spewing at what he's been given. The tools that he's been
You'd
given.
think so.
Got to be. I mean, I'd be very disappointed in him if he's mellowed to the extent where he's just happy to come in and coach.
Did you hear him all day there, Terry?
I know.
I think Regan mentioned it, and he didn't quote him word for word, but he did kind of say, I'll coach the players under the club.
It's so bad.
And I did go back and watch, and I went, he fucking did say that. You know what I mean? I thought to myself, even if he said that, a slip of the tongue, which I don't think he does often, that's not the impression that we're given at Brendan Rodgers. We know he left the last time because of interference, and I'm going to assume things are different now, but we've been told after the guy himself, he knows the landscape better now. And if that landscape is, there's things that are with his control, but he does things, he controls the controllables, and that means coaching the players and the on the pitch performances. But I just think there's something iffy, Terry. Mate, honestly, there's
just a real lack. The play on the pitch today, there was a real lack of imagination, but I just think there's a complete lack of imagination at the club at the minute.
Yeah.
And even some of these players that we're talking about now, and they may or may not come off, but Ryan Fraser, Daniel Podence, those guys were linked with Celtic 2-3 years ago as well. It seems like it's just still old list getting dusted down. Today, I actually read, and I couldn't believe I read this. I read it from 3 different sources. Patrick Roberts again being
that one doing the rounds actually. Yeah,
that's what you call. That's us getting into the Joe Ledley coming back under Lennon stuff. You know what I mean? And Patrick Roberts as a guy, I love.
There's a lack of imagination around the club too.
Well, how far is it? How long did it go before we get to do Dan bat signal up in the sky? We bring him.
You're right.
But the thing is, I'm convinced that there's a tap drawer at Celtic Park, and it's only a few names on it, and that's it. And by that I mean a few contacts. Mark Lawwell's already in the building, so we can't even phone Mark Lawwell to have one. So we've got one less source. You know what I mean? And to be honest with you, it looks like that City links, thankfully, is dried up a wee bit. But do you know something, boys? I don't think I've been moaning my arse off since the day I was born. But do you know something? See, folk like me, I don't mind being the moany person, because sometimes if you can get the mist a wee bit less thick and let folks see through it a wee bit, sometimes you go take one on the chin. I don't mind doing that, because I think the new Celtic are kicking the fans in the balls with their signings, and they're also insulting the fans by coming out at post match and kidding on like these things happen and all the rest of it. These things don't happen to Celtic. I don't mind Celtic getting beat. Well, I do mind Celtic getting beat, but I don't take performances like that.
I'm the same. So I was saying at the start.
And you know something? For us, we have one shot on target over in 99 minutes of football with Kyogo. I mean, thank God Kyogo didn't get injured today, because what state are we going to rock up to Ibrox if we go in there with an injured Kyogo? What condition have we got? What, an under 21 player for Brøndby? Is this a backup plan because O's injured? See if we know how to strengthen every position that within our possibilities, then we're just going back to the biscuit tin. And do you know something? The biscuit tin is all relative. See if you get 10 million in the bank, you want to spend 2 million. That's biscuit tin. See if you get 80 million in the bank, you want to spend 15. That's biscuit tin for me. It's all relative. And Celtic will do. It's a frog and a scorpion. The scorpion does what the scorpion does. And you know why? The reason why that is, it's because it's a scorpion. And it's the same as Celtic. The day with Celtic day because they're Celtic. They don't get it.
Celtic have got the money, and the big worry for me is that they're not spending it, because see, the end of the day, I mean, Mark's talking about the recruitment strategy, but the whole point of bringing a manager like Brendan Rodgers in is trying to get players that he wants in, and not one player in that squad did the team want in. I mean, I tried to say to myself that I wanted the Polish guy in, but see, the more I watch it, I just go, that's been a Celtic signing as well, because he's just not that good either. I mean, I'm just watching it, and I'm saying to myself, see this whole mentality that we've still got James Forrest at the club, we've still got Mikey Johnson at the club. Oh. What are we doing? What are we doing? These guys were done 2 or 3 years ago.
Well, that was the thing, Regan. What was missing today with Celtic was spark, imagination, and pace. Mm-hmm. And then the 2 players that were warming up, according to the commentators, was David Turnbull and James Forrest. James Forrest didn't come on. Thank God, that's one mercy. Fucking Jesus and Alibaba gave me the day. But tell you something now. See if that's your plan to bring a bit of spark into the team. Mm-hmm. And I must be a time warp, because Brendan Rodgers is a very clever man when it comes to in-game management. And Terry touched on it. There was none of that today.
But I'll go back to that same question. Why ask you guys? Why is it we're so sentimental with players? I mean, why is it James Forrest and James Forrest, Bernaby, Taylor, Mikey Johnson? Why are they still there? Because see Brendan Rodgers, right? Do you think he's been alarmed at what he's walked into? Because and he's just toned the part of the line, because see if it's me walking into that squad and I'm going, what am I walking into? I've got Kyogo, I've got Maeda, I've got a few others, but see apart from that, the squad's not good enough. It's just good enough.
If he's alarmed, he's hiding it pretty well, I've got to say. But you could be right, could be toeing the party line. In fact, I'm pretty sure today at half-time when it was 0-0, I think the lassie that was hosting it said to Neil Lennon, "Oh, do you think it's time for maybe James Forrest to come on?" And I was like, I didn't just hear that. I'm barely suggesting that. Obviously, he didn't get on in the end. But I did give, at half-time, the lassie that was hosting it on Viaplay, Neil Lennon was the pundit on the sideline. And I think she said, maybe it's time for a James Forrest to come on. And it was like, oh, please. If that's the answer, what's the question? You know?
That's another fucking insult to Celtic fans paying money to watch Celtic TV. Simon Donnelly and Peter Grant, get a fucking grip. And do you know what? That's the in-depth analysis. You've got Birds asking to bring a bit of pace. When you bring on fucking James Forrest. I don't know.
Pace, but obviously James Forrest, he's getting, the pace is definitely dropped a wee bit.
The biggest problem in this first half, for me anyway, guys, was just a lack of imagination and lack of drive. There was no drive, there was no pace. There was no you don't get that with James Forrest. Maybe he did 4 or 5 years ago, but I don't know. I think we're batting his head against everyone all. You're going to find that on Twitter tonight. People just saying, "Oh, Cam doing it's only a commercial." Do you know what? We're on the podcast, we're watching podcasts, and we go to the games and all the rest of it because we're so passionate about Celtic. So we can't be sitting outraged or confused when people are talking passionately about Celtic getting beat. That was I don't expect trebles, right? Nobody expects trebles, right? But you take every match for what it is. You forget what competition it is sometimes. You just want to win that match. That game in any competition wasn't acceptable. If I was a European game, I've said to myself, well, Kilmarnock were a fucking tidy bunch. That I must be a good European team. They were in third gear. I think as soon as they scored, I'd actually messaged my brothers half time saying, if we lose a goal, I can't see this team turning around and scoring 2 goals. And I think we could have been playing till Pancake Tuesday and no scored. Do you know that?
Well, it's the whole, the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting the same results. Because Terry, in that first half in particular, we kept on pinging it down the left-hand side. I mean, obviously, Lagerbielke was a bit prone to a long ball, which we were told about before he signed, that he was that was part of his game. And fair play in conditions like that, with that plastic pitch, sometimes you've got to mix it up a bit. But he always kept going down the left-hand side to Maeda, who was getting nothing out of their right fullback. I believe his name is Mayo, it's pronounced. They were just getting nothing. And then it was like, well, mix it up and maybe go to the other side. But it just felt like we never utilised Abada at all. And it was always go down the left. And earlier on, we were talking there, like I think Mark brought up about Yang. He came on and looked a bit of a spark. And you think, we talked in the build-up to it, saying, well, Home will probably, he's done enough to get a start. And many people thought Yang will get a start. And then he came on saying the way the wingers were playing and the fact that we just couldn't get any of them into the game at all. It's like Yang should have been justified to get a start, could have made a difference in the end. Did you see enough from him when he came on to go, he definitely should have started? Or would it have just been more of the same? Was it just one of the days where we just couldn't get any of them into it at all?
No, I thought he looked bright. I think he probably looks slightly more comfortable on the right-hand side, but he didn't go across to the right at all. He came on the left and he stayed on the left. But he at least looked as if he was trying to make something happen. He was trying to take the play in the right direction. He wasn't always looking for the backward pass. He had his head up. He was trying to make things happen. He got dispossessed a few times, but he was trying to be a spark. He was trying to create something. So I thought he was all right. And yeah, you know what? It's probably time for him to get a start, but he could turn around and do what the rest of them have done. Once he gets a start, then he becomes totally ineffective, which doesn't happen. I just want to pick up on one thing you touched on earlier there, Mark, around this game at Ibrox. And I know we've chatted in the group chat around the transfer strategy isn't around that one game and everything, but in my head, that one game that's coming up in 2 weeks, that game could be really pivotal in terms of this season, because assume both teams win their game next week, which the way we've started the season isn't a gimme. We have a chance to go there and go 6 points clear. 6 points clear at the start of September. To me, that would be absolutely massive. But having seen what I've seen today and the games so far this season, I think it's more likely, unless there's a massive sea change, we're going to go there and get a similar doing as the one that we got at the end of last season. And I think we've a real chance to really make a statement and let those guys know who's boss. And if we could somehow go to that game and win that match, and I suppose whenever Brendan Rodgers came back, given his record against Rangers in the past, I know they probably weren't as strong as they are now, but I kind of was thinking again, do you know what? We'll go to Ibrox. We'll go to Ibrox under Rodgers and we'll win again, because that's what he was. But I don't know. There's just something isn't clicking, or something isn't right.
I just think the way we're playing is just so slow paced at the moment.
Again,
it's maybe naivety, because you just look at the opposition and you think it shouldn't matter if we go at a wee bit of slower pace. We should still be able to be beating these teams. But if you don't take your chances, or in our case today, you don't even make any chances, then what do you expect? What's going to happen?
The second half was dictated by the first.
We marked around the pitch and everything. We played on that pitch twice last year and we were brilliant. We won 5-0 and 4-1 on the pitch.
And the spoke mentioned the penalty kick.
It's an easy one to throw out. I know it's a poor pitch, but these guys play on that surface enough, and
nothing to do with the pitch, Terry. You're right.
The pitch was. The pitch didn't make any difference last year whenever we played those guys and beat them off the park.
The game was lost by the team selection, the manager, and the in-game management. There's no doubt in anybody's mind with that. And I didn't think I'd ever say that about Brendan Rodgers. I think you said I had a fear about Ibrox anyway, Terry. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but I think every game we've played this season and pre-season, you can look back on this, we've lost a corner kick within the first 90 seconds, 2 minutes, right? You do that at Ibrox, and you're inviting them like you get their big men forward, and those an early goal when you're it's a long fucking afternoon. I'm telling you, it'll be a long season for Celtic if they don't use today's match and say that's never happened again. The first half was just slow. See, you're running 5-0 and there's 3 minutes to go. Play that way. That's fine. Let's just go out there. But it was all about just. I mean, there was folk mentioned before the match. They knew it was coming. They were like, I'm not interested in performance today. I just want the result and get up the road. And they say the same thing last week at Bustalgia. There's a kind of wee bit of acceptance that we're going to see a type of football that we don't want to see. And it's not because we saw Ange Postecoglou's style last year and 2 years ago, last couple of years, and it's so exciting that we don't want to go backwards. We've went to the polar opposite. Went from exciting football to something that, see, if I was Rangers today and I watched that match, I'd be saying to myself, fuck me, I can't wait to get a hold of him. I know they're no great shakes, do not get me wrong, they're no great shakes, but they're more aggressive than us in every way, you know what I mean, for what I've seen. I only watched it for an hour the other day there, but they seem to be like more forward thinking in terms of when they're on the ball. Celtic was quite happy. In fact, there was 95th minute there and our centre-backs are playing fucking tippy-tappy football in the second half. Nurocki was doing a kind of Christopher Ayer run latterly in the last maybe 5-10 minutes of the match. But do you know what? It's far too little, far too late. And I'll go back to it. You're only as good sometimes as what you've got on the bench. And when you're trying to bring a spark into the team, guys, and you're looking at the bench and you've got Forrest, Bernaby, fucking Quan, who we all know, and Bhoycie calls him a Quan artist, and you've got Awata, who I've gave up now. I've tried to be the guy's biggest fan. Awata, my God, just every one of them probably shouldn't have been anywhere near a Celtic. Yang aside, none of them should be in a Celtic bench. And you know what? The Celtic bench would look so much better if the guys like Turnbull, O'Reilly, Taylor, Hart, etc., the guys who should have been the first 11 were dropped onto the bench because there's somebody better brought in to replace them. That bench looks strong again. And do you know something? We're only 1 or 2 injuries which can happen at any moment away from an utter fucking shambles kicking off at Celtic. And forget the fact that we won 4-2 at Parkhead against Ross County. See the first 20 minutes, they could have been 2 or 2-0 up at Celtic.
That was a worrying day. That was a worrying
day. I mean, Aberdeen, they could have been a couple of goals better than Celtic last week, and we won the match, and that's all that matters. There's no pretend otherwise, but you'd have to be a right fucking idiot to think Celtic have been scintillating this season. And they're getting told, it's season just started. Well, no, this is an old team. This team's been going together for 2 years. Let's not try and put Michael Beale style timelines on things. This is a team that's been playing together, and we've been told it's wee small tweaks. To me, the tweak is they've been told. This is the obvious tweak. They've been told no to just go forward. Just pick and don't go forward until certain times. I mean, that one I mentioned, Greg Taylor, that's got to be missed. That's got to be lost in translation today. But to me, that thing is summed up exactly like when Rangy did for Celtic.
Yeah.
He wasn't expecting Celtic to play the ball forward. This is a Celtic player wasn't expecting Celtic to play the ball forward inside his own half. And that just sums up. If you want an image for today, that's the image you should have in your head. Is our fullback, who's supposed to be an attacking fullback, wasn't expecting a forward pass in his own half.
Well, Vegan, we'll come to you in this one. We'll try and look more at the bigger picture here right now, because there's not much more we can say about the game, the individual performances and whatnot, because there wasn't much really to talk about other than we weren't good enough. But I spoke about this on Friday night when we did the show. We'll talk about obviously previewing the game, and me and David talked about it this morning and talked about previewing the game. And my fear about this was, and I mentioned it on Friday, was if we were to lose, which obviously has happened now, it's how fans react to it. Because for years and years, there's always been this sort of, it's just the League Cup, as David said on Friday night, it's that thing where if you don't win it, it's like, didn't fancy you anyway, that type of thing. You ask a girl out, she knocks you back and you go, didn't fancy you anyway. I can see and I can tell by the body language and a lot of the reaction in the chat that people are rightfully annoyed about this, because it's not an acceptable performance. It may be only the League Cup and that, but at this stage in the season, with some of the sort of the play that we've seen, it's obviously, fans are right to be concerned. I'm quite glad that fans are, taking it like no, this isn't good enough. You know, I'd say them in minority are giving it the, don't worry, guys, just League Cup will be fine. But in the grand scheme of things, Regan, how are you feeling about it? Say today, say it's gone now, the treble's gone, we can't do anything, we just need to move on. We need to take, I hate to say this gives me PTSD, but I'm going to have to say it. Take it on the chin, as Tony Mowbray used to say, and move on. Hopefully that's not where we're going, but I say PTSD on that one. But it is one of these scenarios where we got it wrong, and the treble's away now.
Yep.
And I think on Friday we talked about it. I think David put this question to Connor about, will this be seen? Let's say Celtic do go on and win the league and win the Scottish Cup and win 2 trophies. Yep. Will it be seen as any sort of failure or anything, or is it just a case of, you know, we don't think that far ahead right now? It's probably wise not to think that far ahead. But overall, you know, the treble's not going to be won this season. We now know that. Is that how we should be judged? Is that the benchmark, Regan?
I said that sort of season, the most important thing for Brendan is to win the league championship.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that is the most important thing for Brendan, but I think there'll be a tinge of disappointment from Brendan's point of view, especially because he's going away to a place that he knows it's going to be physical, but I just think we didn't do much to win the game today. And I think in terms of the overall picture, Phil, I think it's, I wouldn't say it's bleak, but I just think there's a lot of players in that team that just don't seem to fit where we're going as a squad.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest problem that Brendan's going to have is the mix between going to Dermot Desmond and saying we need players in, but then Dermot saying to himself, well, these players have done it before, they've won titles, they've won trebles or whatever. And I think the big thing, if I was Brendan right now, I'd be saying, look, we need to improve to win this title, because if you look at Dermot Desmond, right? Dermot Desmond brought in Robbie Keane. That was his moment when Tony Mowbray was going absolute.
2 mentions for Tony Mowbray now on that.
Even the whole season was going terrible. I remember Robbie Keane coming in the January. Dermot Desmond saying, right, here's Robbie Keane. We need somebody like that. No, we need somebody big to come in to galvanise the fans, because I'm sorry, I don't want to be coming out at September the 1st and our backup options is Telio, Mikey Johnson, Tony Ralph at right, but I want to go in there and go, we've got a very strong bench. We need to be as a support. Like I was saying earlier, I went to the Ross County game and Mark's spot on. I mean, there was so many times in that first half where Ross County could have been a few goals up, and like I know we won the game last week, but I still thought it was the same case. I thought Aberdeen dominated more of the game than they probably should have. I thought we sat back or too slow. I think the big problem for Brendan is getting that mix between. I think I seen a comment pop up earlier saying Brendan's been too nice, and I think that probably is spot on, because see when Brendan sees the last time, it was kind of like the board need to back me, they need to support me, but he's not coming out and saying that. To be saying Matt Lawwell's doing a great job over the past 2 years. He's really steadied the ship. He's really
He hasn't. He's not
bringing on the board.
See, look at Matt Lawwell's signings. Look at Matt Lawwell's signings. Jota and Carter Vickers weren't his signings. Look at the rest of them. Look at the rest of them, and you go, hang on a minute. He was in the helm for your Bernabes, your Awatas, your Kobayashis, your Seagrass. Gucci wasn't him either. But you look at them right up until after Hatate, O'Reilly came in. That and Maeda, that was your last bunch of good signings, in my opinion. And we've not improved since Ange took us to the cusp of having a right good Celtic team. And we got away with it last year by having a manager who just blew the league apart. And we've upgraded the manager, in my opinion, still. But we've downgraded in every other way. We've got players regressing, and we've got a captain who's... I think Cam McGregor does hide a lot in matches. I've said that for a long time. When Cam McGregor is a man in a match in a 4-0 victory, he doesn't always dig you a hole. And when you're 93rd minute, 95th minute, and you're chasing a goal, and you're 30 yards for your own goal, and you're looking passive. The full 90 minutes, that guy looked passive. The only thing he did in the first half was he nearly lost the ball at the halfway line and let Kilmarnock in. So his only contribution that full match. Aberdeen, he was nowhere. Ross County, he was nowhere. And do you know, you're either saying Carl McGregor's playing too many minutes or you're making another excuse. Carl McGregor's fine. He's fit. He's playing in the rank system and he's playing in the rank position. That's obviously anybody that wants to see it. It's not Carl McGregor's fault that he's not performing just now. Kyogo's not performing to his ability, I don't think, because he's having to drop in so much deeper to get in amongst the play. That guy's wasted. Try to make space for himself. Try to make play for himself.
Yeah.
Look at Yang. Our boy should have gone for the start. Terry said some players play better when they come off the bench, and he's probably right with a lot of them, right? Yang deserved a start today. More so than Home did. Yang is like fucking dynamite every time that boy's touched the ball. There was one point in the day where he fell on his arse and still managed to get up in time.
And kept it in play. Yep, that's right, he did.
Don't get that with a badder. Or, I mean, I said there's one person that's got away with being murdered now, and that's Dyson Maeda. How nobody has pinpointed we need somebody doing that left-hand side better than Dyson Maeda just now. I will never know. That guy should not be a first 11 player for Celtic, and he certainly shouldn't be a first 11 player come the end of this window. And I've got a feeling that he is going to be. I think you look at the players we've been like, when you go, really, Podence is the only one that I've went, oh, he looks exciting. Some fucking 21-year-old for Bronte. Is that who's going to come in and replace Kyogo? Should we get a bit of bad luck? And bad luck in Celtic going in. Let's be honest here.
Because see in terms of European football, right? We're never going to improve as a club if all we try and do is try and bring in gems. You know, there's always so many gems you can pick up.
Yeah, the scouting needs to be bang on for that as well to uncover these. You know, that there is an inherent risk with every signing that we make. You know, over the last 15 years or so, for all the £2-3 million signings that bring for every Van Dijk, there's a Brickton and stuff. It's a risk that you take, and yeah, there's we can point to many on both sides. So, how many times can we hang our hat on that and just hope that we uncover somebody? But Terry, in terms of what we saw today, and we talked about Brendan being a good in-game manager for changing tactics and that. And one of the things he did get criticised for in his first spell was he was very regimented in one system, where he's with the 4-2-3-1, which isn't a million miles away from 4-3-3, which is what Ange played 4-3-3. And today, obviously, I say there was quite a few long balls, and up front you've got three forwards that are all quite, short in stature and physical stature, and try to hit them with long balls and so on. And you'd think it pointed to, might have saw like a change in shape. So I think the shape never really changed at any point. It wasn't like we need a goal here, we'll need to go like two through the middle and stuff like that. I think you said earlier on, like the Kyogo, he was dropping so deep. I think near the end of the game, there was one that he picked up and the commentator even mentioned it, and he was like, he's about 40 yards from goal here, and it's like, that's how, disjointed we seemed. But you'd like to think that if we find ourselves in positions like that Brendan will have the tactical nous to say, no, we're going to switch it up. Everyone points to the famous one at Ibrox for the Odsonne Edwards substitution as a great example, Terry, of when he switched it up mid-game when most people thought, why is he bringing on a forward? Well, we're down to 10 men. Why would you do that? And it ended up paying off. But see, they just didn't, we didn't really shift in the shape, and nothing changed at all. No real chances. And are you concerned by that, or do you think that we'll see some real moments from Brendan during this season where he will be able to shift it mid-game where it's no going our way?
I think the concern I would take from today was that he didn't really try anything. He swapped the wingers, and that was pretty much it. At no point did he try to shift to a back three. Or I heard Mark speaking on, I think it was on Thursday night. I think he's working to a back three with just the guys that have come in. I think definitely at some point this season we'll see the two new centre backs and Carter Vickers playing as a three, and that might be the way to overcome the issues at left back, possibly. But I just was expecting. I was looking at Rodgers, and he was standing and he had his suit on, and I'm just thinking, get your sleeves rolled up and do something here. At least make an effort. and to try and change something. A blind man could see that game was petering out, and that we weren't going to. If we just continued to do what we were doing, we weren't going to create a good enough chance for us to get a goal. But he seemed to be passive. Mark talked about McGregor being passive. Rodgers just feels a little bit passive at the minute in everything that he's doing. But in that game today, he was standing kind of watching the game rather than taking part in it and trying to influence it. And at least if he tried a few different things, you could say, well, he tried this, it didn't work. He tried that, it didn't work. But back to the Edward thing, I think it's different when you've got Odsonne Edward on the bench. He's your sub. It gives you an option. He maybe looks at his bench today and goes, right, who is going to change it for me? And I think Haksabanovic, it probably broke his heart to bring him on, because I just get the feeling he's not the type of player that Rodgers would want to be calling on to try and save his bacon in a game that's petering out. I just go back on a couple of things. I know we haven't really looked at the detail of the game, and there wasn't much detail to look at. We did lose the goal when we were down to 10 men.
Greg Taylor was off the park, and it came from
slightly
that side.
Unfortunate, because it was a nasty tackle, and we then got the double whammy, because it was our player that was injured, but it was our player that had to go off, and we were the team that had to go down to 10 men for a period, and they scored the goal. But again, that's something I'm sure someone as meticulous as Rodgers works on in training. If you've gone down to 10 men for somebody going off to get treatment or a red card, everybody knows their job. Everybody knows where they're supposed to go. So, I mean, unlucky to a certain extent, but not an excuse. And then I think touch on possibly a couple of penalty claims at the end. I mean, I didn't think they were penalties. I thought the one at the second one, the Haksabanovic one, I think he was looking for a penalty from the minute.
He's dragging his foot.
He was dangling his leg. But what I would say, and again, it's not sour grapes, because we didn't do enough to win the game today, but it was probably more of a penalty than one that I seen yesterday.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
They would get that. They would get that.
The worst I've ever seen. It was so bad that none of the Rangers players actually knew what it was given for. They weren't appealing for a penalty. They didn't know what it had been given for. And I read some comments from Broadfoot today, who played for Rangers. He said he knew that referee was going to give Rangers a penalty. He knew he would take the first opportunity to try and even things up. But anyway, all of that aside, just probably things we would have talked about had we had a normal Celtic performance and we'd won the game, and we were looking at aspects of the game. But
I think the biggest thing for me, Phil, was that I look at the game today. I think that just showed me that Brendan Rodgers doesn't trust anybody on that bench. I don't think he does. I really don't.
He won him. I don't blame him. I don't blame him. Anybody with a fucking brain. I told you the first thing I do when I see a team sheet is I always look at the bench. I always think, well, I look at it to see who's starting in the key areas, but I look at the bench and I go, right, if we're leading the dugout a goal here, who's got to come in and change it? And there's some games that you're looking at and you go, well, you've got Rodgers, and you go, fuck, got him, that, you go, blah. Yeah. Well, we've got a lot of players that can turn the game for you, but there was the one guy in that, Yang, who should have started the match, there was the one guy in that bench that I thought, do you know what? That bench, since match day one, that bench has been absolutely fucking atrocious. We've played 3 games. We've lost 2 at home at Ross County. We've lost 1 away at Aberdeen. Could have been a couple more. And we've lost 1 today. And nobody's even mentioning the defence. And that just shows you that there's that many problems out of the park now for Celtic. The Celtic losing 4 goals in 3 matches in a league we should be walking. Hasn't even sparked attention. There's just so many things wrong now with a Celtic team. They've got the wrong goalie, the wrong left back, centre back pairing these fixed ones to Carter Vickers comes back. The midfield just looks all over the place. If McGregor's no chatting his door and saying, look, Brendan, I'm all for doing what I'm told, but you're not getting the best out of me. And then Carter McGregor's not the man that I think he is. Which I think he should be talking to the manager, because when he gets aiming right and when he sits down, he knows that game was an architect there in demise there. We architected that ourselves. Kyogo's getting no service. Maeda, that pass in the last couple of minutes just summed him up. I mean, he's a workhorse, but sometimes he's just a horse. and that's what it was today. You can't afford passengers who give you nothing else but hard work. There's been a lot of times in the guy's played for Celtic that he has surprises on, scored lovely goals. He surprises even more by getting good goals in key times. But more often than not, you brush aside his ineffective, his ability to look like he's ineffective because you think he gives you that bit of that hard work. And Celtic isn't just about hard work. That should be the base level of every Celtic player, should be hard work. That's the three things in sport. Your fitness and your hard work is the only two things that's free in football. Everything else you need to work on, you know what I mean? And I just don't think there's anything that screams to me that Daizen Maeda should be the first choice left winger. And if we as a team are playing so much relying on wee killer passes and breaking away, we need players with the ability to take chances when they come to them. No guys that are more often than not going to hit the big screen at Celtic Park when the ball's come to his feet. I'm just fed up watching it. There was players under Ange who were guaranteed game time no matter their performance levels. And what we've seen is with guys like Maeda and Abada, they two are under the same fucking bracket, because if Abada and Daizen Maeda are still the first choice wingers,
Rodgers
finishes, then we're in for a long season, guys. I keep on saying that phrase. The league's the most important thing to me, and I'm not trying to be fucking dramatic here, but playing like that, playing the way we've been playing, and being so oblivious to it, and our fan base being oblivious to it, is a recipe for a really hard act. Because after 15 minutes, there was folk writing in our chat today, fuck me, this is a hard watch, innit? And you see the same thing last weekend, and you see the same thing the weekend before that. There's not been one prolonged period football this under Rodgers so far that's been scintillating. In fact, I'm not even all that looking forward to the next matches. I'm not going to lie to you. I wasn't all that looking forward to today's match. And as soon as it started, I went, this is why. Do you know that? And I don't know. I wanted to come on today's show because I was working the day that the game with it back, and I seen the game, and do you know what? I could have just sat and just in the chats and moaned about it, but no, I wanted to commit and explain exactly why I'm so angry at that performance. You know what I mean? And we're all angry, but do you know what? It's only words. I do this podcast, so all we can do is use our words. It's up to Celtic to make the actions, and any inaction by that club is a kick in the teeth for everyone else and everybody watching.
Do you guys think that because of this as well, they'll maybe try and get more players in? Because I know you've spoken about
it can't be based a strategy on one result, which tells me that their strategy's wrong. Because we wouldn't. Look at that bloody bench and that starting 11 with two, and you go to yourself, Celtic made the inroads to try and give Brendan Rodgers the tools, or better tools, than what he had to do in that park. There was nobody we've signed that's just not up to fitness yet. The guys who have all been signed so far were available apart from Tilio.
Yeah.
So,
because I was thinking, I know this sounds stupid, right? But I was thinking during the game, right? See, these last couple of games, Brendan's played the exact same 11 that I've played the last 2 years. So what actually brought Brendan back to Celtic Park? What actually brought him back? Because he's going to bring in a 20-year-old from Denmark. Do you know what I mean? What actually brought him back?
I think he wants to fix his legacy. I think he wants to fix what he broke.
Aye.
I think he thought, I'm not going to get a chance to fix what I broke, and I'll go take it.
But Mark, I'll say that to you again. See if he fixes his legacy. He's also going to make himself go backwards, because then he's accepting Celtic bringing in poor players just to fix his legacy. Whereas Brendan Rodgers from 4 years ago, when I spoke up and said we need more players, but like I said earlier, he's not saying that this time.
Well, the thing is, as well, you said, Irene, I don't think the strategy should be, we wait till we get a bad result. I've seen those words used a couple of times early on in the live chat about wake-up calls and stuff, and that gives me more PTSD about the ill-fated 10 in a row season, where it felt like every bad result we got, people would say, "Oh, don't worry, this is a wake-up call that we need."
Wait till Johnson's fit. Wait till Turnbull's fit. It was always wait till this person was fit. It was always a wait till.
Aye, so no, that shouldn't be the strategy at all. It's they've got a lot of food for thought to going ahead to the next game. So we've now got till St Johnstone next Saturday 3:00. So that's the next league game. So yep, the best part of a week now to get it in line, and hopefully we see a much improved performance in the next one. But guys, that's us done over an hour. So I don't want to be on hammering home after that performance, talking too much of anything. We've covered everything that we can cover. So I guess we'll just we'll wrap it up there and head off. So yeah, tomorrow, Monday, I'd imagine Monday Club will be back on. It'll be Russell and Jono. They'll be on to further dissect over what we saw today and talk about any other rumours, news that's going round, and again weigh up what the bigger picture is and so forth. So yeah, Russell should be back tomorrow for that one, because yeah, for viewers that have been watching for the last few days, you can't get me off this channel, so it seems like I can't escape at the moment. But yeah, I will be Russell and John will back in the seat tomorrow. So yeah, we will head off, guys. Thanks for coming on and braving this horrid result. I appreciate it massively. And yeah, all we can do now is just see what the next few days bring in terms of changes at the club, in terms of transfers and whatnot. And hopefully next weekend, we get it right against St Johnstone and get some momentum again. But either way, the bus will be here to cover it all regardless of what happens. So guys, we'll catch you later. Thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of your Sunday night as best you can, guys. Catch you later.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Yeah.